Two, one. No, hold on.
Wrong one.
Now it's live. For real. Welcome, everybody, to the Hi There Show, episode 7. Very cool. Hello, I am Ian Conrad, joined by my friend and co-host and amazing designer Nick Brunt.
Hey, y'all. Hey, YouTube. Welcome to episode 7. That means we've been doing like almost 2 months of this now, which is
Almost
kind of
two
cool.
months. Pretty good, right? Having
Pretty
some
good.
fun,
We're,
designing some stuff.
we're hanging in there. There's a lot of tension behind the scenes that the audience doesn't know about, but we're making it.
Yeah, I would have,
We're making it work.
well, that's how all of these shows go, I think, in reality. Zoom, zoom. All right. Well, today we're doing everybody's favorite and most interesting thing on the internet,
Mm.
forms. You love to fill them
Mm-hmm.
out, so let's design some. Um, yeah, forms. There's a lot to forms. So we were thinking about that. What can we do this week that's interesting? And we got thinking about design systems and
Mm-hmm.
and forms. And there's actually, forms are really pretty complex when you kind of look into it. There's lots of different components to forms. I think they'd be um, just a really good thing that we can dig into with all of the different input types and states. And you don't really think a lot about forms, but we interact with them all the time. And it's an integral part of a design system, which is a collection of a central, I guess. What does something have to have? What characteristics does a design system have? It uses your style guide to create reusable components that are like centrally located and shared. So in this case, like a Figma design library where all can access and use those components. Boom.
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Forms.
Um, yeah, so like Ian said, we're doing forms tonight. Kind of ubiquitous on the internet, I think. I would say that probably 100% of all of websites on the internet have forms on them, and that's a true fact. That's a true fact that you can take away from this show.
100% of
Um,
websites have forms.
but
It's
yeah,
true.
they're ubiquitous. They're complicated. How do people use them? I mean, obviously, when you get into digital products that have, high viewerships, high users, you're looking at how effective is my form? Are people bouncing off of my form? If I have a form on my website, chances are I want people to fill it out. So, what steps can I take to maximize that?
Yeah,
So I think
how do
we're
you
going to
make
go
a
through.
No, go ahead.
I think we're going to go through some of that this evening. And like Ian said, design systems are all the rage. I guess what are some characteristics of a design system? Probably, I would say their ability to be flexible. What's a good like one line way of describing it?
Flexible, like
A
consistent
design
for
system.
sure. Especially
Yeah.
when you start dealing with like a team of a lot of designers and you want to keep everything consistent. You're gonna set up your style guide, all your text,
Hmm.
brand guidelines and everything kind of baked into a central location, and baked into all your reusable components, whether that's, Figma, Adobe XD,
Hmm.
Sketch. They all have really, really similar kind of central design libraries so that, when if I wanted to design a new feature or a new part of a product, I could just and say I'm building a form. I don't have to design those form fields from scratch every time. I go into our design system, our design library, and just grab what I need. So I could get fields, form fields. You can get drop downs, text boxes, check check boxes and radio buttons, all that stuff that makes a form, buttons,
Well,
and
and like
pull
let's
those in, and then that they're the same and consistent across the everything else. And then if somebody updates that central repository, then those changes get updated everywhere. And then on the other side of it, developers, they've built the site on that system, and they're reusing bits of code and or however they do it these days. Man, I don't even
Hmm.
know. And then so everything stays consistent, so they don't need to recode or redo stuff on their end either all the
So I
time.
guess taking a step back from that, I think what we're talking about is creating sort of a flexible file system. So for all the designers out there, like you're super used to, building your building your work in a piece of software like XD or Sketch, like Ian said, even Illustrator, or going way back to Photoshop, is sort of taking considerations to make sure that in the future, when you need to expand on the product, all of that stuff's available and you can work with it and hand it off to developers. That's a design system to me. Is like a robust file, like the most robust production file you've ever saved in your life.
I like it. And yeah, it'll be fun. It's definitely an investment. Like, you can quickly create a form um, field like this guy here, but we want to create plan ahead and create some like uh, different types of inputs, different states, and we use a couple of different tricks to do that. But then there's a whole aspect of like how do you make it so then we're making something that's like makes it easy for us to design with, but then how do we make it like look good? And how do you make like
Mm-hmm.
what makes a nice looking form? You know, like you said, like 100% of websites have these things. So what makes a good, and then once you start putting these different fields together, like what makes a good form experience? Like how, I mean, I guess you can't dictate like exactly what you're going to put on it, but you know, not asking too much on a form, using the right like fields and stuff, the right selections, having something that
Mm-hmm.
flow like I don't know, having something that flows nicely. How do we explore that and start tying all these different things together? This is a huge rectangle, by the way.
Is
What do
it
we do?
1440 by 800?
It's
Can
like
you see that
6,000 pixels. We're zoomed
on my
in
screen?
like
I made a box that's 1440 by 800.
uh
What's going on? Stream looks okay. Stream's actually a little zoomed out.
hold on. We got to zoom way in.
Yeah,
There we go.
totally. Just so we can work at like consistent pixel sizes. That's
Yeah, we were
cool. Leave
okay.
that pixely background though, because that's rad.
I like it. Yeah,
So,
okay. Okay, we're back. Yeah. No.
so okay,
You got me.
what kind of form are we making here? What do you have in your
Well, I
craw?
mean,
Because I
let's
feel like you're kind of the design system expert here, so I'm gonna get her all out, and I'm gonna sort of like tidy things up around the edges where I
that's
can.
I think that's going to be really interesting because I don't I want to see how good a form can look. Um
Oh God,
and and so
I don't.
like how it's going to be interesting to see how this works, like us trying to work on something at the same time. uh
Mhm.
but I think it'll be a fun experiment, and that's what we're here for, folks. We're designing live in Figma together on the same canvas. Very cool experience in Figma's multiplayer mode. So let's try and make a sweet looking form that's part of a cool design system at the same time. So I guess the first step is like, yeah, like let's get, I just screwed that all up probably. Let's get
Well,
like a,
once you select something, I can't touch it anymore.
okay, I'll move away from it. But
Yeah, move
but
away
the
from my move away from my input
don't touch
box,
my
Ian.
forms. But the
Well,
cool
hold on.
thing
Let's
is,
let's like let's like pump the brakes on this and just take a minute and talk about the form that we're making here.
okay,
So, like, what is it? Is it what do you want to do? Like a login form? I mean, a login form's two fields typically.
yeah,
It's very, very simple.
we could start with
Um,
that. Yeah, you're right. It is simple, but you know,
well, we don't
it's
have
a
to
good.
start with it. I'm just kind of riffing here.
I think that's good because then you have like a that gives us a chance to do like error states if it doesn't work. Um, have a password field that's masked, and maybe we can unmask it with the little eyeball clicky thing. So I think there's a whole ton of stuff to do there. So let's get into it. So yeah, the first step to do is make our field thing here. I'm gonna check my levels. I think I sound okay. Yours looking good too. Last time I yelled into the mic a little too much. Try not to get overexcited here. All right, so we're gonna make our main component. I'm gonna see what I can do here. So we gotta stroke around this in a background. That's good. Let's see what I can make.
Okay, so what are you doing here? Sorry,
Uh,
I don't want to just leave it to. I should be like
I'm
talking
going
or
to.
engaging.
So I'm gonna take what the colors, the styles that you're using here, and just make a main component. So I just need to set this up. I'm gonna call this default.
I'm gonna get a title on here so people know what we're working on.
Sounds good. So basically, what we're gonna do is kind of jam. We're gonna make like the main component where we're gonna kind of jam all of the different things that could be on a form field inside of one thing. So like we're gonna have it empty, we're gonna have it filled out, we're gonna have like a drop down box, we're gonna have like an error state in it, and then that way when we make our component, when we use that component in our designs, we can like toggle those different things on and off. So it makes it easy and then kind of keeps them all consistent in there too. And it gets pretty fun. Log in to our form. What am I doing? What am I doing? Call that default. And then, yeah, so, and the other cool thing is hey, if we decide we want to change it later on, we'll be able to just change this main component and all of the other instances of that component, as you know, will update as well. So it's like magic, folks. You're gonna love it.
So cool and fun. What is this login form for?
It's look at my crypto.
Oh man.
Or something.
I wish I'm working on a single monitor tonight because otherwise I would start to drag in all those graphics and that would be hilarious. So very simple. Two fields. What else would we have in a login box? Maybe a toggle to show password, probably, which is a radio button for some reason on the internet.
Oh, okay. Or sometimes there's the eyeball. Oh, you mean it's a radio button as in like the code?
Oh, yeah. No, I love the eyeball. The eyeball is very elegant. I'm going to make an eyeball.
We need an eyeball.
I wish I could share my screen. I could show you how fast I can cut an eyeball in Illustrator.
How fast you can cut
Super
an eyeball?
fast. What cut, make, I don't know, render. What's the right term? Make, craft a vector.
Vectorize?
Create new.
Okay, so are we gonna remember how we made those forms last time with the placeholder or the label was actually like it was that placeholder text, but then it like kind of animated up.
Sorta.
We could do something like that. Why did my font go away? What's going on? Because technically it's a field.
What's field? What?
Field, a form field. Fill out the fields. Field of Dreams. Oh, that would have been a good. There's an alternate episode name. Field of Dreams.
Oh, Fields of Dreams. That would have been perfect.
I mean, we got to reuse our content anyway, so we can get that shoved in there. Oh, nice. So yeah.
Hold on. I feel like I'm getting ahead of myself or something. I'm gonna start duplicating these fields and populating this page. Are you gonna do inset labels? like material design?
Like in here,
Hmm.
should we? That's what I'm wondering. Will that look good?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Everything in material design looks good.
I still
That
haven't
would be
gotten
probably part
fonts.
of the
What's a
master
font
field.
that I can use that's not terrible? Roboto is what I'm got now selected.
Yeah, I think probably for the purposes of the show, Roboto's like a pretty good default.
Okay. What about a color on this guy? We're gonna need to clean this up. I mean, you can fix this at any time as well. Field label. So this is our label. This is our label. Then we need some other text. It's just gonna get the pieces in. What size should I make this? 40. That's way too small. What do you think about like giant form fields? Did you ever use type form before?
No, what is typeform? I do like giant form fields though,
It's
and in fact, we should do that.
it's basically like a form. It's an app that a service that you just build forms with. It makes pretty nice forms. You can have some pretty good like it like animates down between sections kind of, and you can have different types of inputs. Like you can use like pictures to have people select stuff like instead of like radio buttons. It's a nice like attractive looking forms, but it's pretty crazy that it's just for the forms. A whole business based on making forms. Yeah, what about the size for this? Is that the right? Is that a good size? What else do we need inside this thing? I am going to add. What else? A form can have a drop down. I wonder if I can manage to make a triangle. Remember trying to make
So,
that X?
like, do you mean like a password drop down, or sorry, a username drop down?
Just any kind. Like if we wanted if we wanted this to be a drop down at some point in the future, we're gonna hide it
Oh,
in
I
there.
see.
So
In terms of like building the component.
yeah, so from
Cool.
this one component, we'll be able to make a bunch of different types of fields
Mm-hmm.
or inputs. I don't know what the right word is. It's kind of a okay looking rectangle, like triangle, I guess. Rectangle, triangle, triangle. It's not. Why isn't it called a quad angle?
No. Can I get in there and edit this?
Do I have to not be clicking it? Oops, jeez.
No, I just want to add a path to it, but it's like an object in a frame, and it's got stuff, and
You can remake that too if you want in any way.
yeah, I think I might just make it a little stroke chevron. Okay, so what's next?
And just gonna label these things for good practice, folks.
I can't find my objects. Drawing tools in Figma still iffy. There's some decisions that they've made about how their vector tools work that I absolutely can't understand. I'm sure if somebody explained it to you and it was like, oh, okay, well, I understand if you made that part of your workflow, it might be a little more convenient, but it's bizarre. Why do I need to click done to be done with an object? You just click away from it. In every other piece of software on the planet, you
I
just click away
I
from it.
A pet
It
peeve
doesn't
of
make
mine is
it's
when you
bizarre.
can't click away from something and it doesn't like exit it.
They'll get there. It's like, how old is Figma? Like, how old is this software? I wonder.
I think it's older than we. I think it's like it became super popular recently, like
Mm-hmm.
not like recent, but like I think it's older than we know. Like I've only heard about Figma like a couple years ago. You know what I mean? But I'm sure it's been around longer than that. I don't think, yeah, I don't know. Sketch was first to me in my brain, and then XD came out, and then InVision tried to make one called Studio, and then Figma just kind of shoved everybody out of the way. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, we work on Windows, and it's like, oh, actually, that's probably good.
They work on Windows?
Figma, yeah, it runs on Windows, so
Do other things not run on Windows? I have no idea.
Sketch is kind of like exclusively not Windows, like
Uh,
exclusively Mac.
well, here, give me your opinion on this. And I'm going to throw this out there. This is one of those like controversial opinion tweet threads that you might start. I think that Sketch is hot garbage. I think it's a hot, flaming, open source box drawing nightmare. What
I
do you
I,
think?
I haven't used it in a while, but Figma from my yeah Figma. When I got into Figma, I was like, yeah, I think I like this better.
I Figma is a much more stable piece of software, and Sketch can do things, and I think Sketch fans will talk about the cool things that you can do with it. Don't get me wrong, you can, but you need to like add plugins and manage those
Yeah, I
plugins
was gonna say like
and get good ones and keep on top of them and etc.
yeah. As last time I
Um,
used it, I had to use plugins to do a lot of the stuff that I do in Figma now. I think Sketch is
mhm.
probably building that stuff in, but a lot of the like the component and like adaptive layout stuff. It was all based on from
Yeah.
plugins and stuff, and they were good plugins, but I found like they could really slow your machine down when stuff got a little heavy, even a little heavy, like not even like overkill. So let's get this eye.
Building a login form.
Building a login form. So there's a couple of different tricks you can use to make like those components um, kind of like work as different types of forms.
Hmm.
And and so one of them is like you can use like your design tool like Figma and whatnot to create different component states, or you can also just kind of hide stuff and show stuff as you need. So what I'm going to do here is just hide this field name or field label.
Like, so do you have to hide
Save.
show those things on a component by component basis? Can the audience see our sidebars where you're changing those layers and stuff? Probably not.
No, guess I could do it on this screen. Can they see that? Can you see that? You kind of can see it.
I can't, at least not on the stream, but that's cool. You're changing values.
It should be there now or in a minute. Yeah, so that's why we're jamming all the different things that we want in here. So I don't want this to be a drop down. We do want this eye though. I'm going to take that, put that in here. I'm going to hide the drop down. Uh, so this is what
So,
we'll call our empty state, I guess.
mhm.
Oops.
So I guess what you would be doing is looking for every conceivable piece of an input field that could exist and then including them in here.
Yeah.
And then as you duplicate those form fields through your design, you can turn those things off and on. That's pretty
Yeah.
practically awesome.
And it all like so you can create like you have your one main component and then you basically when you grab that from your design library or copy
Hmm.
it from somewhere else, it creates instances of them. So
Can I take that a step farther and then make my eye a component so then when I change the eye that you know
yes.
propagates?
Yep. So
Cool.
the yeah, you could yeah,
I can't wait
that's
to if much like groups, it sort of makes me excited to nest my components like 185 layers deep so that the next designer who gets it is super pissed off that they have to work with it.
definitely. And don't name
Component
them
one
either.
component 141 copy 2. Cool.
So we have that. Let's hide that. So what's our most base form? So let's just do this.
Does that have a background color on it? It does have a white fill. Okay.
Woo. Okay. So what might this, so this would say email.
Picking colors.
Nice.
So when you land on these kind of form pages, they're always, you were just talking about big forms. They're always sort of, very large and very centered like that. I think that there's some visual reasons that are really obvious or should be really obvious that, this is the only component on the page. We very much want people to interact with it. It being a login form, it's sort of a utility thing that they have to interact with. We want it big. We want it in the middle of the screen. And there's some other touches that you could talk about, like, that first field is highlighted and ready to type in when you land, etc.
That's a good one.
Although we're talking about this from a desktop perspective.
That's true. Yeah, we never
this one in particular would not be much different on mobile.
Well, the good thing is we're going to be able to resize these forms, these fields anyway. So we're like, that's a really good point. We never even really sized this up on a grid or anything, but it kind of doesn't matter because these can be any width we want them to be.
Yeah, this is not the type of page you would put on a grid where it's just, I mean, it's the one column, so it would be a one column grid, which is kind of no grid. Hey, what do you put? So when you're mocking stuff up or you're doing work for a client, what do you put in the type your email here form? Like is it, I usually do like a name@address.com kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think I have a standard one. I always make it up. Yeah, it's like email at something. It depends who's going to be seeing it. And then I might make it I might have a little fun with it, get a little silly, as they say.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, exactly. Know your audience, right?
Totally.
So I set that drop down up to be stuck to constrain to the right side of this when you resize it. So that's cool. I'm going to do the same with the eye. Where is it? Thought it was in there. There we go. I'm going to call it eye.
What would you do with this caption, or at least the value in the field here now, name@address.com? Do you leave that in the component, or do you just like slap that on top as you're working?
We'll keep one in there. So what we need a version of this that has this. So we need a version of this that has the state of like just a blank form. So that whatever that would be. So this will be. So we'll keep this in as the filled state. So I'm gonna. What color should it be when it's filled in? Black, I guess, or darker.
So yeah, that's a good point. I guess I can't control Z for you. Yeah, so normally I do, in those fields, I do the sort of opaque looking light gray with the italics on it. That to me looks like this is disabled, or you can engage with it, or it's the universal symbol. The italicized gray text is the universal symbol of, it's not in here yet. You gotta click on here and interact with it.
That's not the form label. That's just tagline.
Oh, that's good. Sign up with us.
Sign up with us. That's it. Now that's a call to action.
That is directly a call to action. I like how you sized it for the second line here. Like that's, I mean, they can't teach that. That's some good stuff. Okay. So
where were we? So yeah. So if this is the non. So this would be like the label. So this would be like enter your email. And I'm making some changes in the sidebar a little bit.
So I should just be able to copy this component wholesale.
Well, it's not, I didn't even make it a component yet.
Then what are we doing here?
We're gonna finish it.
What the fuck is this whole YouTube channel that we started?
I guess I could make it a component and then you could use it and it would update as we go.
Cool.
Create component, but you'll still have to copy it again.
It doesn't really seem like it changes the behavior. Like it's become, I guess people can't see it. We should figure that out at some point. People can't see it. The group has turned purple, but otherwise just completely functions like a group.
Oh yeah, they can. I've got that showing in the stream.
However, when you duplicate it, I now have a second one that is a copy of that component. So then as you mess with things, it starts changing it across the board. Did you turn that off? Cool. I like it.
So yeah, and then once you so you can see that when I'm changing stuff, it's doing that for yours too, but for the instance, but once you start overriding that instance, it won't my changes won't affect what you're doing like right below me. So if you change the text in that, I won't be able to affect it anymore.
Yeah, and you can,
which is obviously good. Is that a big?
You can see in the layer palette. This is how Figma does it. So this top icon is a component. This bottom icon is I guess not a variant, but a duplicate of a component. An instance.
They call it instance here. Is that what it is in XD? Variant.
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I work with it all the time, and I couldn't tell you what the exact term is. So when I changed that secondary component, I don't know why I keep writing like these.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't write anything.
I wouldn't write anything else. So when I change it on that instance, it's not going to change the component. However, if you have an unchanged instance and then you change it, you're going to see the changes come across on that second box. So that's pretty cool. That's a nice, neat way to organize things. And I swear to God, at some point in time, you will get asked to change something that, goes across 20 or 30 different templates, and you only have to change one thing once as opposed to every single one. Have you run into that before?
What?
Where you're like, where you get revisions on something and you're like, damn, if I had only like set this file up properly, this would take 5 minutes, and instead it's a 4-hour task.
Yep, that's what they call. I think that's what they call design debt. Kind of like when you have tech debt, where you kind of like take a little. Not like, I'm not saying like take a shortcut, but like you kind of take a shortcut, yeah, and you don't set that up, and then it comes back to haunt you later when someone asks you to make changes. But sometimes when you're in that moment making it, you're like I've been in that moment too, where I'm like, oh, I could set this up as a component, but that'd be a waste of time because I'm just trying to do this thing quickly, and there's no point in setting that up as a component, and then later on you wish you did. And then there's times where I've gone like super into it though and set it up super properly. And then I like it almost like made it a pain in the ass later to change because I didn't need it to be like so componentized. And then like changing stuff just became like a hassle. So.
Do you have a field label for active in here? I guess you would make a second one that's.
I do, yeah. There should be one in there's one called text.
I'm going to make mine here. Bringing our text up to mostly black. Of course, all black text looks terrible, I think.
Yeah, never.
Anything hard black. Hard white looks great. Looks great as a negative space. Hard black, very difficult to contend with. Nobody likes it.
Okay, so that's the active label. That needs to go there too. Okay, good. So what's that one called? Text? Inactive. We've got text here. That's active. Cool. Got the I. Badoo.
I don't think our corners are rounded enough.
Round those corners big time.
Rounded corners on a box are a weird thing because there's this sort of dead zone where
I like what you did there.
Nah. I'm gonna go nah.
It's
square.
It's almost so trendy like to go back to square though.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like we're going back to that 90s thing. Was it the Figma site that you sent me with that whatever con they're doing and it was like very clearly like riffing on like Windows
Oh yeah, their
98
conference.
design? That was
What's it
pretty cool.
called? I thought, yeah, I loved it. All right, so I'm gonna do one thing here now because this is so. Let's actually, you know what? I don't know if it's the proper thing to do, but I never put my components. I always store my like components in their own spot, like their own, basically their own file, and then that gets turned into the library. We don't really have to do that now, but I'm gonna move this up here and just create another instance down here.
And then those will
And
become
that way that one just
instances.
lives there, yeah. And then we can do this. So we can call this like your email. Sure. And then I guess, that would say password and have the odd. Yeah. Dope.
That's a login form, folks.
So that's kind of cool. We need to make like, I would say, what else is on here? We could add like a error state. That was what I was thinking.
An error state. I can actually get on designing this now. While
Yeah, you can go. Yeah, I tried to
so
be a good friendly designer and name my layers in this component for both of our convenience.
so would you make an error state like a separate component because there's potentially a lot that's different about it?
No,
Like in this case, this might have a stroke color, which might necessitate like a new object, etc. Do you know what I mean?
yes, I do.
So
I
you would
would
have like field, you'd have like form field and then form field error and then use those across the file.
Yes, and you can do kind of like I don't know what the right word
I mean,
is
you could
either.
also hold on. I'm being shitty by saying that. So let's John, could you deselect that component for me? Click on something else, you bastard. So jump in there.
So yeah, I guess it depends what we're gonna do with it. But yes, because what you can do is you can like nest components kind of inside each other. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a better word for it in proper Figma land. But what were you going to do? Because yeah, I guess what constitutes the error state? You wanted to put a stroke on it. So
So
yeah, we would
okay, hold
need
on.
to.
So yeah, hold on. So
So yeah.
so we're gonna pull the fill out of there. And then I need to make a new box. I should actually make that new box first. Okay, so I'll make a new box. I don't want to fill the component. I want the fill to be generated by the actual box itself. So we'll send that to the back. We'll call it. Oh Jesus, what would you call that?
What is
I
it
don't
going
want
to
to call it
be?
background. I'm gonna call it background, but I don't want to call it background. So we'll call it background. We'll give it a fill. We'll round the edges out. I think it was at 6. So now we have a rounded box. That's now like a part, rather than this top level layer having a fill and properties associated with it, like rounded corners, which I'll take off. Those properties now are held by that. So we can duplicate the background. We can pull the fill out of it and add a stroke, and then we have our red stroke. Red stroke looks cool. I'm gonna add those rounded corners back to this thing because that makes sense to me. So now we have an error state that we can turn off and on, like dynamically or whatever.
So yeah, I'm not. I don't know if it's going to work with the background. We'll have to. Let me see. So we want a stroke on it for sure.
Well, I mean, hypothetically, that would be like a popular
Yep.
approach to that.
So hold on. How do we get this? So the way. Let me see. We need to get. Yeah. Okay. That's good. So I think what we should do is create an instance of this. And then what we're going to do is now create a component out of this. So we'll call this like this is what you were saying at the before. So we'll call this default whatever, default error. So now you should be able to go in and change that stroke how you want. And what we'll also do is probably put some text underneath of it. It says like, what's wrong with it, I guess. Hey, dummy.
Sure.
And whatever else. So that, I think if you put a stroke on that, we'll get what we want.
So, but yeah, so looping back, that would be like we have a second component for errors, basically, which is a bit of a pain in the ass because, like, what if that font changed? Like, the client comes back and
yeah. So this component is based on this one. So if that font changes, it will change that one too.
Okay.
It's just we're going to be allowed to do some more overrides on it. So that it still cascades through. It's just it's almost like a subclass of this component.
Cool. I like it.
I think before I say too much though, try and add a stroke around this and make sure that it works as we want it to. Might be talking about my ass.
I'm just being an ass. All right.
The forms are the first thing that we did on our design system, and I don't remember.
So I see it in behind here somewhere.
Just click on the main frame. Yeah, you've got it there. Why is there?
I don't know. Maybe we should ditch the stroke thing.
No, we got to figure it out. It definitely works because I do it. We do it on our forms. Oh wait. Here we go. There.
So what steps would you take beyond this to sort of prototype the rest of this page? Like, is that it for the forms?
Well, yeah, I guess if you wanted to, we need to make the button. Buttons can be fun. Make a super fun button.
No, but like in terms of actually like prototyping it, like do you build different states or like in terms of making it interactive?
Yeah, that's where I think Adobe XD has a bit of an edge. But yeah, you would kind of duplicate it as if you're like filling out each one, or that's what I would do. Like I would take this as its like default, and then I would duplicate it, and then I would say like fill in the email. And then the next thing, and then so like clicking on this would fill in the email, clicking on the password would fill in the password. I'd make a thing where you clicked on the eyeball, it would hide and show that password. And then not until those things are both filled out with the login button be active, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, that brings us to our halfway mark. Do you want to toss up the BRB thing and we'll BRB?
Halfway mark. All right. Well, let's take a break, folks. When we come back, we're going to figure out what the heck else you do to make a form. Back in a few. Welcome back, everyone. How's it going? What kind of form is your favorite form? Tell us in the chat, and we'll make it. We'll make it happen.
We'll make your form right now. Literally, if you have a business, we'll just make your form for you right now. Okay, so we did email password. That's like an easy one. That's 2 fields.
Yeah, and
we could go into error handling and stuff like that, but that's, I don't know. Let's work on a bigger form. We'll drag this one over.
we've got this with our. We had some red on this one. Whoa.
A local shop.
What does our local shop do?
What do local shops do? Around here, they're mostly breweries, but I don't know why you'd ever need to log into a brewery.
What kind of form would a brewery have? Maybe we can make a brewery form. What else might we need?
All right, I'm just going to start making a bigger form over here. What are you doing? You were going to cut another component?
I was just going to go like, hey, why can't I use the right keys on my keyboard? Just to kind of highlight the different things we've done here.
So what's another kind of, I guess another form would be like a deeper sort of a side registration.
Let's do registration with a twist. And we're going to do one of those like personalization strategies where we ask some kind of questions. And then we build like a profile, or we recommend like a beer for you or something. What was I just about to do here? Default.
First name, last name. Does anybody even ask for first name, last name anymore?
Name. What if the structure of your name isn't like, you know, one first name, one last name? Like mine is, but I don't know. Maybe you're from somewhere else in the world. Maybe you have like 2 first names.
All right. Cool. What do you got going on?
I was just like highlighting our different states. Hotmail still exists, by the way. Why did I do it? Why did I? This is not
Wait,
what I wanted.
who owns Hotmail?
I don't know. Microsoft doesn't. I don't think. Like I didn't think Microsoft would own that anymore.
Let's check it out. Oh, it just takes you to Outlook.
You can get a Hotmail address though, because I saw one recently, and I was like, what?
Hotmail.com. I think, yeah, it takes you to outlook.live.com. I think if you've had one and kept it up forever, you can use it.
Okay. So you can't get a Hotmail. So are those like sought after now or what?
I guess. Can I get a Hotmail? Because if I get a Hotmail, I definitely want a Hotmail.
I want a Hotmail.
How great would that be
now.
when someone's like approaching you about doing freelance work and you have a Hotmail account?
I actually
how to create
really
a Hotmail account. How to
Uh,
create a Hotmail account in 13 steps. It's right on WikiHow. That always
13
works.
steps. How?
Create
Wow.
account. Oh, you can just pick it at outlook.com. So, okay, so when you're registering for an account on Outlook, which is a weird thing to be talking about, you can opt for Hotmail, which is amazing.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, Yahoo Answers is dying. Did you hear about that? They're
Yeah,
closing
so
it down.
is that officially going? Because one of my favorite podcasts is Yahoo Answers based, and I'm bummed to be losing that. None of those answer sites ever worked. Ask Jeeves was never popular. Yahoo Answers was never popular. There must have been this whole wave of like startup proposals that were like, what if we had an internet service where you could just ask questions and anyone can answer them?
I mean, sounds great on paper.
Sort of, I guess that function happens naturally in forums and whatnot anyway.
Mm. Or I bet what they imagined it would be sounded very great on paper. What? Drop down. What are you gonna do?
Okay. What are you doing?
There.
Why are you
Found
doing
that.
this? Sweet.
I just wanna neatly display our nice components. Look at how nice
They're very nice.
they're not
They're
named
very nice.
well. There's
The
not even
rest
that
of
many of them.
the rest of the team, the rest, the rest of the team will definitely notice this and applaud your efforts.
Yeah, it took an hour. Oh yeah, look, what the hell's up with that? Cool. Whoa. Hold on. We're not getting this on stream. Shoot. So, if anyone was wondering what would happen if you drag this into like negative world, this is what happens. That's weird. It's like it just went to put into the Large Hadron Collider. This kind of messes everything up. All right, so cool.
Very, very
That's
incredibly
neat.
cool.
I could do that all day, like butter. So a registration form. I like it.
Cool. Okay, form it up. Make some forms. Teach me how they go. Oh my god, we're about to get an echo. Sorry. I just opened up the stream to check chat.
And we're gonna ask people to what else kind of. Let's see. I want to. Zoom.
So what are some tell me what you know about forms, about registration forms. What are some
Well,
tactics to keep people registering?
I guess the obvious one is to not have it too long, if you can help it. If you really want people to register, then limit the amount of friction that it takes them to register. So the fewer the fields, the better. Generally, sometimes you might need to ask some stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
think we want to make a nice annoying form that's like gonna ask all kinds of questions.
So like a step-by-step approach.
Yeah, like I want this to be drop down. Whoa. Okay. All right, we've
So
encountered
let's
our first issue, folks. Why is that happening? I know why.
why is what happening? What's going on? Talk it out as you're doing it.
So that thing popped out. I guess I should zoom out a bit. So when I changed the state, I changed the component and to a drop down. just to play around with it. But then it kind of got really wide, and that's because this is it's because I made it too wide up here, but obviously that's not what we want to have happen. I need to set up something inside of this. Maybe I'll do it on the stream here. I need to set up something inside. Clicked on here. This guy, so that it will size properly. Those silly little things. Okay. Yeah, just like the resizing on these was kind of messed up, but all I had to do was make sure that the frame was the right size. Because inside of each of these, it's kind of hard to see on the stream because you can't see my cursor, but you can see what's selected. Each of like these are like it's kind of like a component inside a component. So I had like the component second layer selected when I should have like had it selected a layer up, I think. Kind of weird stuff like that happens all the time. Honestly, sometimes I just button mash until the stuff works, like a video game. I just click around and then it works. And I move on.
Cool. Okay, so if we're going to make an annoying form, I think the approach I'm taking here is sort of a step-by-step thing. So we're going to let users know immediately by getting those carousel buttons in there.
Yes.
And we could actually further that by saying step 1 of, I don't know, 6. Because we're going to want people to get their, their SIN numbers, their social security numbers. We got to get that in there. So
yeah, you're in it for you're in it for a journey here. This is what they call it.
This is a fucking thing. You're going to need official ID. You're going to be digging around for your birth certificate before this whole thing is done. Like, so we're going to go that direction. So normally you would have carousel buttons. I actually really hate carousel pips indicators like these because they are so inaccessible. They're just graphics and they sort of describe a numerical state. So we're going to put the text there so people with screen readers and that kind of stuff don't have an issue with it.
Oh, very good point.
I'm Mr. Accessibility over here, baby. I actually think that's a really sort of, I don't want to say not talked about part of UX, but it's a really important part of UX that doesn't get paid for often enough in budgets. I don't think.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's assumed a lot, and I think it's kind of glazed over too much because a lot of it is kind of built in, probably to just clean work, but there's a lot of stuff that takes some extra time too. That
it's a whole thing, and I think once you start to get familiar with just the sheer amount of people that I guess I don't want to say disabilities, but like the amount of people that taking accessible design measures in digital products helps is astronomical. So it's very, very important. It's not a subset of your user base. It could be a considerable portion. A lot of people are colorblind. I never knew that.
I mean, I am, and I didn't even know that. So
you're colorblind?
I don't feel colorblind. Yeah, I have like whatever the most common form.
Hold on. You're like one of my oldest friends. You're colorblind?
The colorblind designer. Yeah, I'm it's like the most common form for males or something. I forget what it's called. But yeah, it's like
just like everything.
No, everything's fine for me.
So what color is it that messes you up?
Like blue and purple. When they start to when blue and purple like start to cross over to each other, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? That
there's like
that messes me up.
There's this zone, this fuchsia zone.
Yeah, like that.
Like that?
Yeah, I know that I'm seeing it weird.
We're gonna go with that on the design.
It's hard for me to look at.
I want to know. I want to spend some time with you and write down all the hex numbers of the colors that you have trouble with, just so I can use them on some kind of regular basis.
I see purple.
It'll be some huge corporate client, and I'll think, man, great. Ian's going to see that eventually. Purple. Sorry, go ahead.
I see purple as blue sometimes. Like it's a if it's a royal purple. Or and like green and like gray, dark gray and like a dark green. And then
Yep.
blue and royal, like royal blue and purple. Purple. Those are
I
my
feel like I
trouble
feel like
zones.
I can see where those things are low contrast, but not where like I can see them.
But
Okay.
I only found out like last year. I went to do um like a eye exam, but it was some like I've never had one like this before. It was like the super exam where they do like a colorblind test and a bunch of other stuff. And so I was having, when you see those things where it's like a number, it's a bunch of little colored dots and it's a number and stuff. Like,
Okay, where
it's like,
and it's
can you
like,
see
can you
this?
read the number in here?
Yeah,
No way. So you
I did
did one of
that.
those and didn't see it?
I
I
I
feel
was
like
doing great. And
I feel like I live in mortal fear of the day that I look at one of those and can't.
I got to a point where I couldn't see them. Like they were fine. And then they started to get harder. And I got to a point where I legit couldn't see it. And I'm like, are you sure there's one there or are you tricking me? And she was laughing. She's like, no, keep trying. And I'm like, I don't know how to try to see something. Like I'm looking at it. She's like, are you sure? I'm like, I can't see it.
Ma'am, I am frightened. Can you just tell me what's going on here?
And she's like, keep trying. And I'm like, I don't know how to try. How do I try to see a color that I can't
It's like
see?
that scene. It's like that scene in Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory where he's driving the boat and he just keeps saying faster, and everyone's terrified.
It's like, please stop. Like I feel like you're trying to
Uh,
shame me. Like you're trying to make me
it's
feel
like,
bad about myself.
no, no, sir, you're fine. You're fine. Hold on. And then they call their colleagues in the room and they're like, okay, okay, tell me what numbers in here. Look, this guy's gonna tell us what's numbers in the circle. I love it.
I think one time I said a letter like W. It's like I see a
Just
W
guessing.
in a tree.
Cool. So I wonder if you were to get those chroma lenses, would that be really neat?
Um,
The
I
chroma correcting lenses.
I've heard of that. I don't really know anything about it.
I think where yours is so minute, it probably wouldn't be overly intense. I just put field labels in here. Um, where are you zoomed to on the screen or on the stream? Are you looking at the form?
Yeah.
I mean, what do you do in this case where you have like a field label, right? So you could change that to first name.
Well,
What is the sample text in this box? What does that say? Is it nothing?
no, that would so doesn't material have the placeholder text there and then this wouldn't be here?
And it's not until you zero in on it that it
Yeah.
kind of swoops in. Material design, for people who don't know, is Google's design guide they wrote in 2012, 13, 14.
Wow, that sounds so long ago, but
Well, it's been a long time and they've updated it a lot over time. But that's the Google Material Design Guideline. It is widely regarded as like, the world leader in terms of design thinking for this kind of stuff. So definitely a good place to start. Um, don't be afraid to move away from that. Have you ever worked with a client or maybe a external team and they point to something like the Apple design guidelines or the material design guidelines as if it's like, the be all to end all?
luckily I have not had that direct experience. Tell me about it.
I I've had people I've had people on teams inside and out tell me well, Google does it like this or Apple does it like this, and I agree. Like they do it right. They've put a lot of time and thought into it, but you can play with those rules to a certain extent.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Like there's
and as much as UX is data driven, you can like apply a certain amount of self reasoning to say like, well, wait, no, I think that this is usable because X.
there's very yeah, I think you get into some like higher level principles, eh? where it's
It's all
like,
about.
everyone makes choices at the end of the day. And, I had this conversation recently about, I think Google Material uses, what we would call the kebab menu. Do you know what I mean? Like the three dots that mean like more or overflow.
Yes,
I'll
the
draw one quickly.
I call that an ellipses menu
Oh, that
or like
sounds
a
way more
more.
professional.
I would say just add like, oh, it's a more button.
Yeah,
I
that
think
then.
horizontal works too.
Or yeah,
Is that
sometimes they do it. So yeah, oops. That's the kebab. That's what's called a kebab, I think. And then horizontal has a different name. But yeah. So
But
Google,
it's interesting though, because like these are two very similar sets of iconography. Which, when I look at this one on the left, the vertical kebab, that's more of a technical options settings utility type menu, where the more button is more contextual to the thing that is to the left of it. So this horizontal version,
okay.
you
And
know
and
what I
so that's what
mean.
yeah, and that's what Material uses, but I'm just trying to find a file here. And then Apple will use something like, when you want to, oof, what am I doing? When you want to hide, it did that thing. Not hide, but when you want to, the actions menu, like more,
Mhm.
um, you know, I kind of think of this as like a share icon, but iOS uses this kind of in place of this thing I find sometimes, you know what I mean? And it's like, what's better?
Yeah.
They,
Well, I would say, I mean, this is probably up for argument. I think that Apple uses the kebab style menu more, because they usually have like a lot of stuff jammed in there. Like it's not just share. It's like copy, share, send, post, link,
hmm
pin, and it's just like a mishmash of different options. Where if you saw that button on a UI, the one you have selected, you definitely know that means share. Or maybe like shoot through the roof, like jump up on your chair in frustration at your job and jump so hard that you fly through the roof into the sky. And that's what that button
I
does.
guarantee you that somebody said that in a focus group.
Why do I want to
Guys,
go up?
it's going through the ceiling, bud.
What do
Jesus.
we do about that?
But I've definitely seen Apple kind of push the limits to what this means, like for sharing, right? Like it
Do
almost
you
means
remember
like
what?
share it with any external app, like push it out anywhere. So anyway, that just goes back to like, clients refer to these design guidelines or whatever, and yeah, a lot of good principles and a lot of good stuff in them. But then you get to these decision points where it's like there's nothing like in the rules of the world that says,
That's a
what
share icon
either
it
of these
definitely needs to
buttons,
be.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, you try to. Well, I mean, it's a lot of leveraging what users expect, right? But like, yeah, why is the save icon still a floppy disk, a 3.5-inch floppy?
That's fun. Man, that's the second conversation I've had about this week. Because kids
Really?
like won't even know what the floppy disk is,
No idea.
like what a
I mean, I
disk
know
is.
my kid definitely won't. I do because I happen to be around for the early days of that stuff, but we have friends who don't know what that means other than, oh, it's save.
Yeah, exactly. It's a save icon. It's just a thing. It's not like it doesn't like to us it means a disk because used to save stuff on disks. But to them it's just like an abstract symbol. They probably don't even know like it's a little like people have never seen like I don't have any disks. I have
Do you
some
remember
like in my
this?
parents' basement I got some disks.
I had some discs.
I got a few disks.
We had this family friend who used to pirate like games way back in the day. So like King's Quest on floppy, I would get for free. Do you remember this share icon, Ian?
I do.
Back in the day, back like pre
I don't know
2010
if I've
social media share.
have you seen that recently?
I have not.
I don't think I
I have
have, but
not.
I probably would be I might not remember it if I did.
I recognize it. It's kind of a funny icon because it doesn't say social networking or networking at all. It's like three dots connected on a completely linear path.
Yeah, it is very
There's nothing
linear.
open. At least with this like sort of new age, like the box with the arrow that we've all become used to, there's like this idea that you're sending it out. It's going out.
Yep. Yeah, it's something that's leaving you.
It's leaving you.
It's like your
Do you know what?
ghost.
as a as a general rule, okay, we're gonna do a social network, and as a general rule, when you share something, you lose the ability. Like you have to give it away.
Oh my God. Dude,
Like you
that's
don't
actually
like
better than like Snapchat already. And that's
well,
Snapchat's huge.
to share content is to give it away. Like as if
Dude,
you made like bread and you cut it up and gave it out to people.
I think that's
Every
you
piece of
could make them out of
content.
you could build that on the blockchain somehow, I bet, to make sure that it actually does
Oh,
leave you and go to someone else.
okay,
Maybe?
hold on. Yeah, this we could be billionaires. Hold on.
Oh man, shit.
So,
Cut the stream.
oh, so hold
We
on.
don't want our 7 viewers to know this secret.
I share a news article. I share a news article that's interesting, and when I share it, I get 10 share chits. Like I can cut that link up into 10 people, and that gets shared. But those people have to discover it on the blockchain. So there's a certain amount of mining on their part to even get the news in the first place.
Mhm.
But they do have ownership over it once I share it out. I give it away.
And then if everyone claims it, then you can't see it anymore
Well,
because
only
you've given it
certain,
away.
only people who, yeah, no, you've given it away. So you're getting your value. You're getting your value through crypto that people are mining to get your links. Something. I do like
There's
the idea of I want to share a piece of content, so I'm no longer allowed to display it.
I think there's something to it.
I could write a pitch. I could pitch someone on it.
Well,
Oh,
there's
your
our
share
next
icons.
episode already figured out, at least.
Is that the one where we just get drunk and tweet at Elon all night?
I think I think we progressively get drunker and tweet at him more and more, yeah.
Not like I'm a giant Elon fan. It just seems like if you get that guy to respond to your drunken tweets, your IPO goes through the roof. Did you see that Coinbase IPO? Speaking of
What?
crypto,
No.
Coinbase, a crypto service that just did their initial public offering, like went through the roof. So people are real excited about that silly money, about those silly e-bucks.
That's not real money.
It's not real money. See, money's real. Those dollars, those paper dollars that they give you, they're worth something. I guess we should work on this forum.
I
Hey,
I've been like
I was
clicking
deep into
stuff
share
and
buttons.
I've kind of broken everything.
We should
Not
do an
really, but
iconography episode some night where we just I'd love to have people like, what do you think this icon is? Or take like obscure things that have iconography kind of established for them, and then it's like, draw. What do you think backup database looks like as an icon? And then
oh, that's
draw it
fun. Without looking at anything,
without looking at anything, no reference.
it's a challenge.
I do like to look around. I mean, that's the first step to drawing an icon. I like to draw my icons because I feel like it keeps me nimble and young. Like if I actually sit there and draw the magnifying glass, I'm gonna live longer or something because I'm in it. But I would check out resources. The Noun Project is a really really good one.
The noun project.
The
Cool.
Noun Project allows you. It's just a search box. You pop in a noun, and you get some kind of icon for it. It's crowdsourced, but it attracts a lot of really good designers. I use it for inspiration, but you can use the material on Creative Commons rights. I would check that all kinds of out. It's a good one.
Okay. I like it.
How's this form going?
I'm just making a button here, a button component. We might as well, real quick.
So hold
So,
on. What's our social network called where you own content and you have to give it away?
uh,
Keepsies?
Keepsies. Yeah. That's exactly what it's called. I can't even find the. Oh, I'm gonna do it on this screen. Hold on. The only social network that is matters.
We're the only social network where you own the content you post as
And then you give it away and you can't have it anymore.
cryptocurrencies
On the blockchain.
on the blockchain. On the blockchain. Oh God, I feel like if the blockchain keeps going in 50 years, there's going to be a religion around it, and people will all hail the blockchain. You know,
I I don't doubt it. And
are there
then
many blockchains? Is there one blockchain? What is the one true blockchain?
yeah, there will be competing blockchain religions.
Well, competing blockchain tribes, and they sort of like war with each other over electricity that they need to mine that crypto. The only social network where you own the content you post as cryptocurrencies on the blockchain. I'm going to leave it vague at cryptocurrencies. We should probably do a non-crypto episode at some point.
Only crypto. Double down. Or just, yeah, because eventually people are going to find out that we don't really know what crypto is.
Nope, don't know what it is or own it or understand
I
much
wanted
of
to
it.
buy some Bitcoin or like that's tiny slice of a Bitcoin. Just what if it goes to like $1 billion and I got a little slice of it? It could be cool to have. I want to be part of this club, to be honest. And I asked my friend, I'm like, so I want to buy Bitcoin, and he's just like, do you want to buy it to, spend, or do you want to just invest in crypto? And I'm like, all right, I don't want to do either. But no, like, yeah, so you can invest in crypto kind of like buying stocks, but then you don't even own the crypto. You just kind of own a stock. You own like basically like a stock of it, like an NFT type thing.
Yeah, like that's what happens when you buy it with like a service or something, isn't it?
Yeah, you buy it through like a broker or something, but you don't need a wallet, but then there's the route you get with the wallet and stuff. And
I don't know. I bought Bitcoin once back in 2012, and it was $3 a coin at that point, and I remember very viscerally it was $3.03, and it was like new and nobody cared, and I wasted it, and that's the dumbest thing I ever did.
well, at least you can say that it's better to have had Bitcoin and lost it than to never have had Bitcoin at all. That's what I like to say.
Well, or if we had a service like Look at My Crypto, where when I bought that crypto, it was printed off as lovely decorative plates full of LEDs and sort of bright flashing lights that I could control with my iPhone. That would have been better, I think.
Yeah, you would have really had something tangible that you could keep forever. Oh, shoot. What did I do? Did I just say shoot instead of shit? Who do I think I'm talking to here? So I just did a thing.
We already got demonetized. That's it. Arby's isn't going to run their ads on our videos anymore.
No 18 cents this week.
That's fine. We needed that for server costs.
Our servers. I just created a variant of this button.
I'm replacing my carousel. Suddenly cognizant that we haven't been working on this thing in like 20 minutes.
No, we haven't had an important conversation. Lately when I've been mashing the keyboard, it's been typing out SAD, like sad. And I'm wondering if it's like part of kind of unconscious thing going on.
The answer is absolutely yes.
Definitely.
Would that be nuts? It's like your autocorrect is slowly making you depressed in an effort to buy, I don't know,
man, you're gonna turn
McDonald's or something.
You're gonna turn me into a conspiracy theorist. What if that is happening though? Like, why wouldn't people do that? Autocorrect is making you depressed.
Bro, it's not a conspiracy if it's right.
True.
I'm pretty Q. What if this whole show was like we're the first QAnon design show on YouTube? We should talk about that later.
Yeah. Um, I'm not sure what that would entail, but I think it would be pretty popular.
Yeah, I threw it out there and then immediately just like reeled it way back in. We don't get to edit. What's
Yeah,
the point of
YouTube's gonna
any?
pick up on that algorithm,
Well, they're definitely doing that. It's trying
and
to explain the concept of, and I'm not a conspiracy person at all, but this is happening. Is storing voice as data.
mhm.
So not necessarily like recording someone's conversations, or Alexa is not necessarily like recording a wave file of you speaking, but these systems can interpolate like the peaks and valleys of your voice as like certain noises, and they can do it without, recording like hard digital voices. That's not a weird thing. That's just how they do it.
Crazy.
Um,
I don't
People
like
don't like
that
that
one
one.
bit.
I don't care at all. I don't know. That conversation's been going on for a long time, but I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't know. Listen to me say funny things. Listen to me be hilarious to my kids.
Build the
Go
profile.
ahead. Although, that being said, I don't have any voice activated devices in my house just because I found them kind of useless and annoying.
Yeah, I wish, you know, I wish that stuff was a little bit more useful. Sure. It hasn't
It's
progressed
interesting.
very much, like in years. It's, you know what I mean?
No.
It's not gotten
And
a lot better.
the technology is sort of, I think that exists there is in interpolating your voice so it can understand you really well. But your common like Alexa or Google Home or whatever, those things are dumb. There's no AI or intelligence. There's no extra sort of thought going into them. They're very much like voice driven. Like, rather than pushing an up arrow, you say the word up and they react. And I'm not saying that's bad. Um, it just makes them kind of dumb and maybe a little useless at this point in time. I don't know. Google
It's
Assistant
like
looks pretty cool.
it has like no general intelligence at all in like to the extent it cannot even really understand like
It
any
it's
kind of variation in like it's almost like it's very narrow what it can understand you're asking still.
It's very narrow. A lot of that comes down to the developers. I actually can speak to that. Like when you're talking about voice controlled devices, um, a lot of it comes down to developers helping your, I guess on Alexa we would call it a skill. It's not an app. It's called a skill because you're like lending skills to Alexa to understand things, which I guess is a weird concept, but you have to account for so much human language. Like you really do end up going through lists of words. When you wireframe an app like that, like a voice controlled app, you're working in scripts, not necessarily wireframes, but like scripts that help
Interesting.
describe sort of the scope of human language. That's at least what Alexa's design guide talks about is, don't try and wireframe this thing, because if you were to do a sitemap of an Alexa app based on every way that someone can interact with it, that thing is going to be miles wide because there's so many variations on how people say things. Like, um, what's the weather today? How's the weather today? What's the weather? Weather. Like they'll end up being like 55 variations of how some people say something that's very simple. So I don't
It's all is it like is it
know. But they are super dumb. Those things are super dumb.
do you create like flows for those then? Like Alexa, like a is like a conversation that you have with it when you're
So
programming it?
in yeah, I mean at some point you do have to make a flow chart just to show like what the capability of the app is, I think. But in terms of planning it, that comes in the form of scripts, um,
Right, script, that's the word.
that are specific asks and intents. So at least in the world of Alexa, it has intent. So what is the user intent, and what do they need to say to get there? I mean, the system itself is really limited. Google is actually a little bit better with their video devices. They give you more opportunities to do whatever the hell you want. Amazon Alexa is a little more linear, like in terms of like to make a visual presentation on an Alexa video device, you really have to break the hell out of that thing. Anyway, there's a big speech about voice controlled devices. Very neat, also very dumb. Back to you on the field, Ian.
Neat and dumb. Well, so I see that we're on step 1 of 8 over here, which is nice. We're going to have a nice, long, annoying form.
For the only social network site where the content you post is crypto, where the content you own the content you post is cryptocurrencies on the blockchain. That can be a big idea. Okay. What else do we need to do to prototype this? I really wanted this episode to be about design systems, like specifically.
Well,
so if there's anything you want to cover, like let's dive into it.
Well, I've been playing around, so there's a couple of different craziness things here. We have the variants. I've just been playing around with these fields. That's boring. Let's get rid of that out of the way. We got buttons. What other kind of button states can we have?
Okay.
Like, I mean, for the form, active. I guess we just have disabled and default, but I kind of forgot that Figma had this variants feature now that XD had for a long time. This isn't even new, but I haven't built a design system in Figma for a little while. What other thing do we have for buttons?
What do you use on like a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, it's different on the client side. I guess it's different than the agency side because it's the same product. So I actually I spend part of our time, a good chunk of time in like discovery. We're just like trying to figure out what we're doing and talking to different people, and then writing stories, and then building the stories out, which are like usually new features. So like, and we'll have to build like, I can't super really talk about it, but it's like we're building a new feature for like a survey tool. Usually that will entail a bunch of different stories because we have to say like, okay, you know, as you know, when I'm logging in, I want to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll have to have different states for that. So it'll be like, okay, what happens if they turn this toggle on? And then what happens if they preview the survey? And then what happens if they export it? So I'll have to make a bunch of different, like, I'll do a bunch of separate prototypes for that because in development, it gets divided up that way anyway. And it's easier to kind of keep track of everything. But I'm mostly like using our components, like are very like, I'm building out new stuff. Like I'll build out new pages or modals, but I'm using the same form fields that we built a year ago, and the same buttons that we built a year ago. So it's kind of weird. Like I haven't actually designed anything from scratch in a while, I guess.
Well, you're not worried about the graphic design. So it's like that part's taken care of, and now we have the ability to sort of deal with issues without having to go back to that drawing board every time.
It's like Lego. I'm just popping stuff together, but then we have to maintain our design library, so I'll have to like, it's all about doing it correctly. So
yeah, and it's a push and pull, because I would imagine, you know, at a certain point you do have to modify the design. You've just, you know, you have design edits or art edits, or the company's rebranded and you have to change all of it. Like you are going to have to.
We're actually dealing with that now in a way where we do want to do some changes. We've kind of dealt with it before when we had some accessibility changes to make, like we needed to change some colors. So it worked out pretty well for us to be able to change our design library, and then that cascades across the site, or the site, the Figma file, the prototypes. Um, so that is kind of one example of when that can happen and kind of like change like all of your stuff at once. But then we're also kind of dealing with some stuff now where it's like, there's doing it properly, there's doing it right, and then there's doing it like almost like perfectly proper.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of like looking back on it, like what's like we do want to make some more some changes to our branding and our styles a little bit. So it's like, what do we
Okay.
do in that
What else?
case now that we've designed like a million different like prototypes? And how do we make sure like the changes cascade across? And it's like, actually doesn't matter. Like if we're just moving forward, do we need to make sure like we update our old designs? Like, are we ever even gonna? I was like, yeah, everything should be
Yeah.
updated and archived, but like, are we ever gonna go back and look at them? And after they've been developed, do we ever need to go look at our designs again? I don't think so, but I'd never really
Well,
thought about that before.
I mean, archive the file. Like, take your XD or your, .fig or whatever, and save it. But I mean, if you're really talking about rapid prototyping, the design is not even a thing that you need to worry about. It's like just bang through this, in gray boxes to get it tested, and then it goes to a design department who sits down and applies all that stuff to it.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because it's like, how long do we need to keep the design files like up to date? And it's like, well, if the developers are done using it to make the site, then you can kind of, why would you ever go back to like, yeah, archive it, but it's like, if I change the design system and the button doesn't update on those older files, like who cares? At first I was kind of going back and trying to fix them because I wanted
Hmm.
everything to be updated, but I'm like,
Well, and it
this is
is
old,
it,
who
it
cares?
is nice. It feels very holistic when all your files are up to date and everything's like working. It's just easier to work. But yeah, I agree. I don't know. I work more in the vendor space where I think you're more in the product space. So I'm like, I mean, sometimes things happen in a 12-month design and development cycle where I've even asked clients, like, do you want me to spend time and budget to go back and fix all this stuff, or do we pass this information to the developers and just get it in there and then solve it in QA and design review?
Yeah, that's another good one. And I think that's interesting because with the agency perspective, like sometimes there is that pressure to like polish everything up, even when like honestly you probably don't need to. I think that I'm lucky on that side on the product where I can just be like, hey, I can just go on Slack and be like, hey, here's actually like some more notes, or just put some like notes in Figma or not Figma, Jira.
There's definitely yeah, there's definitely like a middle line to be struck there.
I always
Because I
hated
want all my
like,
files to be up to date. But like if we're at the end of a project and we're changing a button label, but I mean too, and you may find this oftentimes with design you end up becoming like a liaison. So as a UX person, you're designing features and you're working with the client to design those features, and then you're taking those features to a development team who are going to make them. Um,
yeah,
And so what ends up happening is you're editing the designs to show the client in your XD link or your prototype or whatever before it goes to dev. And it's like at a certain point, it's like this thing is just designed. Like, okay, we want to change the button label. Let's go like submit that as a ticket to dev. We don't need to spend any more time or money with me.
exactly, yeah. And then it's like, oh, then change it over here, and then change it over there too. Like, why?
Oh man. I miss the
Well,
JPEG days. You just made a couple JPEGs, you emailed them over to your client, they didn't like them, and then you changed it all, and that was it. That's how you design.
that's how you design.
That's it. That's how we should cap every show. Maybe that's like our our tagline. It's like that's how you design. I don't
Just a
know.
hard cut. That's how you design.
That's how
Done.
you design.
Shut it off. I mean, we're getting to that point, so I
That might.
mean,
Are we at 2 hours? Damn, we're at
we're
two
pretty much
hours.
there. Well, we messed around. We made some forms.
We messed around. We talked about
We
forms.
built some design system stuff in a bunch of different ways. I mean, look what we got here. We got all our different all our different form fields based on this one kind of default main component here, with basically everything that's inside of all of these forms hidden inside of it. And then we just created some different states. I actually did it in the kind of old Figma way, where you can, where is it? If you create these variants here, you can select, you can swap out the instance in the sidebar here. That's how we
Mm-hmm.
used to do it. But Adobe XD and more recently Figma now has this mode where I've done with the buttons here, where it's just an easier system of variants. So you just create your main component and then you make and name your variants here on the sidebar. So
Mm-hmm.
we've got our default, and then I've got a disabled, and I've got a new variant that we'll just call secondary or something. And then you can kind of go down here, and say, I want this to be the other one, etc., etc.
Actually,
Somehow that's not showing the first version, but what are you gonna do?
why?
Oops.
I'm so confused. Button disabled. How do I switch this button state?
Ooh, there we go. I think I just. So
Tracking. Let's
yeah,
try
I
this
think it
one.
should be on the sidebar there under. Uh, it'll say button and then like
Oh,
property
variant three
property
default.
one.
Oh, that is so cool. That
Yeah. So
actually
there we
reminds me
go.
of making games in Unity. Is kind of a lot like
Oh
setting up your own variables. Setting up your own variables, bringing it into the UI, and then modifying it from there. But that's really cool.
yeah. So we got our drop downs. We can change this to an error state. We'd have some better text in there. We can change our
Mm-hmm.
buttons, the disabled state to a default, change all of our forms, and yeah, just kind of play around like it's Lego. Look, we can just drop in, duplicate these as much as we want. We can change the states easily. We can have our password field with his eye. That's pretty cool. That's all in one. All ladders itself up back to one main component, one magical single source of truth that can be shared across
Mm-hmm.
across components and design files and users and other designers on your team. So cool.
Now, hold on. What if I'm pretty important design man? I've been here for a little bit. I'm, the creative director or
Hmm.
whatever. What if I want all the boxes to look differently individually?
Over on our form.
Yeah, like I want something different. Each field input, I'm just trying to throw some like impossible scenario at you. It's part of the brand that each one of those form fields
Be very
is
different.
is very different. They're all slightly taller and a little less wide than one another.
That would
But
be a
that would
good.
actually be covered through
Actually,
through variance, no problem. Because
you kind of see, it seems like you kind of can like. I mean, you can do certain overrides to them. Sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't.
hmm
Wow, what an ugly form that would be. Like the worst form on the internet.
the
There,
worst form on the internet, I guess, would
there. Ooh,
the worst form on the internet would throw like error modals, error states at you, letting you know how you're interacting with the form. So you click on first name and you get like an okay, like system level pop up that says you have brought focus to the first name field. And you hit okay.
it's like a coach that's just every step of the way.
Yeah, it's like Clippy. Oh fuck, we should have designed Clippy for this thing.
Oh man,
A form assistant. We don't care about forms. What about a form assistant that got
wow.
you through your form?
I think we've got some great ideas for next time though. We've got this whole social site idea if we wanted to, and then we've got, what did you call it? Form assistant?
Form assist. It's like Clippy, but for forms.
I like it.
Done. All right, that was fun. I hope you guys had fun. I hope YouTube had fun, because we sure did.
YouTube had a great time.
Don't
Thanks, YouTube, for streaming our show.
Yeah, thank you, YouTube
Yeah,
servers.
we never thanked YouTube.
Whatever PC that sits in the basement of YouTube that is just humming with heat, just boiling hot, running this stream. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Don't be afraid to drop a like and subscribe. Always say hi, chat. Check out our Twitter links. They're down below in the description. I don't know. Look us up. Hi There's around. I'm sure if you Googled the Hi There show, you're going to get something relevant. So
yeah, hopefully. We didn't check that, but yeah.
No, we don't check any of this. I mean,
this is unscripted, very, very loosely and quickly planned.
Ian and I briefly discussed what we're going to do the afternoon before the show.
I sent, half a sentence text message. That's usually how it goes.
It's really funny through the workday because it's like, can't wait. See you later. And then we talk 8 hours later right before the stream.
It's just like, all right, let's get it done.
Cool.
All right, that's it. Awesome design system, awesome forms, and I love these colors. Subscribe, smash that like button, do all the YouTube stuff, follow us.
Do all the YouTube stuff. Complete those forums for us.
Keep those design systems nice and clean and updated, and make sure that you name your layers, folks. Do that for your team. They will thank you.
I think we should just get it out on the table right now that name your layers and keep your design systems clean is sort of like our red-green style sign-off. You know what I mean?
I like it.
It's like, thanks so much for joining us. This was a really great week in week 7 here. Have so much fun. Don't forget, keep your design systems clean and name your layers. Have a good night.
Bye, folks.
That's it.